Well, let's get into Numbers chapter 15, verse 37. We'll start in that. And just as your testimonies have been, I think again, it's another great conversation. It's because we're going to ask the same question. We're asking the same question. Is this a physical thing? Is it something that we should do, right? And if we just read it for face value, I do have to read the whole bottom portion that we have here because it all has to come together like that. I mean, if I just only read one verse, there's something that it doesn't, it really makes sense when you do it that way, right? So Numbers chapter 15, verse 38 says, and this is verse 37, I'm sorry, I'll start in verse 37. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moses, saying, this is Yahuwah speaking to Moses, and he's telling him, speak unto the children of Israel. Here we have a specific people now. This is what I like to highlight. I just want to, I'm going to pull out some highlights that I wanted for us all, right? Just to some of my thoughts of what I highlight when I read this all the time. Or especially when I first was like trying to figure this out. But it says, speak unto the children of Israel. Now, I'm highlighting that because it's not the people of the world. It's a specific people, right? The children of Israel, or Yasharal. And bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue. Now, some of the key words that I've always looked at is that they make. And I always thought that was an important word too, like that they actually make them, and that was important for me. Then we have this word fringes, which we'll look at as what's the definition of fringes. But it says in the borders, right? So then we have a specific location for where those fringes go of their garments, which we know is more like clothes throughout their generations. So this is another word we're going to look at. What is generations? And that they put upon the fringe. There's a specific thing you're going to put upon the fringe of the borders, a ribbon of blue. Now, I want to read this portion because this is, Yahuwah gives us reasoning. And he says in verse 39, and it shall be unto you, or me, whoever is the children of Israel, for a fringe, that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments of Yahuwah. Remember, it says that you may look upon it and do them, and that you seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you used to go a whoring, and that you may remember and do all my commandments and be holy, or set apart, unto your Elohim. I am Yahuwah your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your Elohim. I am Yahuwah your Elohim. Let's go back to some of these key words in verse 38 so we can break this down. Because again, the question, it keeps revolving back around to whether we should do it or not. How does it look? And etc. Right? So here the word is, we're going to go to the word that they shall make, which I think is an action that they make, fringes. This is the word that really puts us into a place of what does this look like? Now, tzit-tzit, according to the Strong's Concordance, it says a floral wing or wing-like projection. That is a forelock of hair, a tassel. So according to Strong's, he says it's a floral or wing-like projection. That is a forelock of hair, a tassel, fringe, or a lock. The interesting one here is going to be 6734 of the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon Bible. Now, again, this is the parent root, says the action is to bloom. This is interesting, right? Concretely is to blossom. The function of the blossom is to produce the fruit of the tree. This is the parent root of the word, right? So then we go to H6734. We travel down and we find that it says a blossom. According to the ancient Hebrew lexicon Bible, this isn't according to Strong's Concordance, but it's according to that particular Bible. So it's like a blossom. It says a tassel or lock of hair as blossoms. That's an interesting definition. I found that interesting. And then we go into the Brown Driver Briggs that just says fringe tassel lock. Now, why does it say blossom? I wanted to take it back to, let's go to 6731, which is, it says tzit-tzit. It's the feminine word. And now this word, tzit-tzits, right? Or tzits only, because it's just one, tzits. This one comes from another word from 6692, but this word means properly glistening. Now, we had the first definition was blossom or floral-like projection or wing-like projection or a forelock, like a hair, like of hair. Now we have properly glistening. That is a burnished plate. Also, a flower as bright colored, or it could be a wing as gleaming in the air. Reminds me of like hummingbirds, they got colorful wings. And so it's like, wow. And this word here, again, it takes us back to blossom or bloom, because it's that word. Remember, this was the parent root word right here that we looked at from the other word we were looking at. But this one here, it comes from another word as well. Let me see what Brown Driver Briggs, they may say, okay, flower or bloom or feather or wing. Now, this is where it comes from, right? These two types of definitions, feather or wing or flower or bloom. Now, let's see what it says from what this word comes from, 6692. And this is the primitive root to twinkle. That is glance by analogy to blossom. Again, we have the same word as blossom, figuratively to flourish. So this one's always interesting because we keep seeing this word blossom. We keep seeing like gleaming, shining. Here it says sparkle, to flourish. Here they have two different types of way, and you also have to glance or to make eyes sparkle. But this is we're going all the way back now to the primitive root of the word for tzit-tzit. So it's an interesting definition, and when we talk about it, it says this is what you're going to make. You're going to make what we just talked about, whatever that may be, according to your understanding, because I believe you got to go back into your understanding about it, right? You have to go into a place where you go and study it out to figure out what does it look like, right? Because again, we're talking about two aspects. There's can there be a physical scenario where you're actually making something in your actual garments? Or are we just going back to like the other verse was? It was more spiritual. It was like it led more into a strong spiritual part of our walk. But in this case, we're seeing it like that. Like what we're seeing is to make something on your garments. Now, the other word here, so this fringes is going to be in the borders. And now the word borders here is kanaf, which again, the Strong's Concordance says an edge or extremity, specifically of a bird or army. So when you think about it, the edge of an army or the edge of a bird, it's the end of it, right? A wing, like specifically a wing, it says, of a bird or an army. So when you talk about it, like I was just saying, of a garment or bed clothing, a flap. So now it tells us that if it's of a garment or bed clothing, then it's going to be a flap. It's going to be, and then you get another definition of the earth, a quarter, like a section, right? And then it's of a building, it's the pinnacle. It's like the end of the top of the building. If you use the same word kanaf and you're talking about a building, it's going to be the tippy top of the building, the pinnacle of it. So all we're getting is what James Strong's puts as an edge or an extremity of it. Let's go down to the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon Bible of it. It says here, 3671, the wing, right? Also the wings of a garment. So again, we're getting really the extremity, the furthest part of that garment, the edge of the garment that you're wearing. Again, Brown Driver Briggs is saying the same thing as the extremity, the edge, right? The wing of it, the corner. Here they even say corner. So that's kind of interesting. Kanaf, the extremity, the edge, right, of your garment is where, again, you're going to put the fringes. You're going to put these fringes, whatever they may be, right, from your understanding at this point. And that they put, so now there's something that's included on top of all of that. They put upon. This word's a key word for me. I took it as it's upon. It says above, over, upon, or against. So that's a key word for me, because then it gives us a specific direction on where, right? But he says upon, it could be above, it could be over, upon, or against. So that's an interesting word, and it's an important word, I believe. Upon the fringe, and it goes back to that word for what we kept seeing as bloom, right? A bloom. And then it says, goes back to this word here of the borders, a ribbon of blue. So now they put this word ribbon, pathiel, which is, again, Strong's Concordance says to a twine, right? A twine or a twisting. It says in ancient Hebrew lexicon Bible, the action is of a twisting. The concrete is a cord. Cords are made by twisting fibers together. So that's interesting. It's like a rope, it says here, from like a rope. 66:16 says made of twisted fibers. So this is what that word itself, I want to say, is the fringe of the borders, a ribbon. This ribbon, this twisting of a rope, it has to be, I would say, of blue. Well, now we're going to look at blue. Let me go back to ribbon real quick, because the word ribbon comes from 66:17. I don't want to not give us the fullness of the word. Pathiel comes from pathal. Again, this word is to twine, that is literally to struggle. If you think about two ropes twisting up, they're struggling with one another, you know. Literally to struggle, or figuratively be morally torturous, right? Again, it's like the twisting. Again, we're just seeing this, I would say, cords kind of wrapped around each other in some sense. Now that part of it, that cords that are wrapped, should be upon the fringe of the borders, a ribbon. This is that twisting word, the ribbon. And then here's the color is blue. And now the word blue is an interesting color. There was a documentary I seen, and they had found some ancient garments, ancient fibers, and they found the color that they're talking about, they believe, and they put it under a microscope, and they got to see the blue is like just powerful, right? Now this blue, it says tekeleth, probably from 7827. They believe, James Strong's again, the Carolean muscle. Now, the question that some people had asked, and I can ask you guys, is would Yahuwah use an unclean, this is an unclean ocean creature, which is a mussel, right? It's a clam looking thing. Squish it and take that, whatever it comes out of it, to dye your clothing with and to wear it. I don't know. That was a question that was brought up to me, and I thought it was an interesting question, right? But this blue here is violet. It's like a violet blue, like a real bright blue. I always imagine it as royalty, like a royal purple blue, you know. Now it comes from 78. Well, it says probably for 7827. Shekelath, through some obscure idea, perhaps that of peeling off by concussion of sound, scale or shell, that is the aromatic muscle. See, they're going back to a muscle on this one. So this one's always up for debate, I believe. It's in question. You know what I mean? Where could this color have come from? Could it just been a blue that they created, or is it an actual muscle from the ocean, and you took from it the color of violet and you dyed your ribbon to make it that certain particular blue? But here, the Brown Driver Briggs as well, they claim it to be a violet, not blue, because that's the difference between blue and violet. They're two separate colors. One's more of a purple and one's more of a blue, like the sky, or I don't even want to say water because I don't think water might not be blue. It might be more of a green, you know what I'm saying? So, but purple is more like the violet to me. This is what is being said. Now, I want to read the Septuagint as well. The Septuagint says, speak to the children of Israel, and thou shalt tell them, and let them make for themselves fringes upon the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and you shall put upon the fringe of the borders a lace of blue. This is something interesting, right? Because now we have the word a lace of blue upon the fringes. And then you go back to the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, they actually use decorative hymns. And this word here, decorative hymns, it says a margin. That is specifically a fringe or a tassel. And that's where they got the word border or hem, craspedon. And if we keep going down, we're going to see that it says a margin, a border, an edge. In the New Testament, a fringe, tuft, or tassel. Again, we're looking at the same word, but it says an extremity or prominent part of a thing. But I found that was interesting that the Apostolic Bible Polyglot says decorative hymns, because now it kind of goes back to Matthew 23, and we see what the Pharisees were doing something to magnify their borders. I can even see them doing more decoration, more, if we use the word lace, more of something, right? Now, I don't want to leave out the purpose, though, because the purpose is very important, I believe, for this commandment. And the purpose is that you may look upon them. Now, this doesn't take away from somebody else seeing them on you and it become a door open that you could talk about it, right? Somebody sees it like the brothers you were expressing with you guys as testimonies. I can say the same thing with you guys. It's like, this is what we're seeing, right? We're seeing people being able to see what you're wearing and ask a question. And that is only led by the Ruach HaKodesh, I believe, for that to even be spoken of. He says, for you to look upon it, right, and remember all the commandments of Yahuwah and do them, which is why he's saying to do this. He's saying to do this in 38 for the purpose of 39. Why? To remember all his commandments and do them, because, and that you seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you used to go whoring. Now, you can even take that into a spiritual sense, though, to say, man, I used to be in Egypt. You know what I'm saying? I used to be in Egypt, but I'm free now. Just because you're not in bondage no more and you're walking doesn't do away with you not having to look upon the fringe. Now, I will say that we do have two sides into this conversation. That some sides it says that it's in your heart. And that's it, right? Simple as that. People say it's in your heart. And I said, well, I look at this as a specific commandment, and it's a physical commandment to do the spiritual side of it again, which is to keep me lined up. So do you look upon it? I don't know, dude. That'd be the question I have to ask you guys. Do you guys look upon it? I know for myself, I may not have the same as a lot of people, but I've cut my shirt. I put a blue rope, actually, I found, and I interwove it around my shirt, and I just do that every day. I put it into my shirts. What it has done for me, though, I would say as a testimony, is it's helped me where I feel that I have to walk with a higher standard, because I have something that maybe even people don't even know what it is. Like, they don't even know what this is. They just, but for me, I don't know who doesn't know what it is. I don't know who doesn't know. So now I have a higher standard for myself that I say, man, you can't walk a certain way. You can't act a certain way. You can't, and that's all commandments to me. That's all instructions to me that I'm saying, all the things I'm saying I can't do, I can't walk like, is a part of Yahuwah's instructions, what he's instructed us. So then in that sense, for me, that's where I look upon it, but just want to throw that information out there from what we just seen in the word. I'm not really saying much beside that. But I did throw my little add-ins in there to try to give us some thoughts, because I'll say this lastly. There's no condemnation towards another brother if they're not wearing the same type of fringe or tzit-tzit as you do. We shouldn't condemn our brothers and our sisters because they're not wearing the same type as you, right? There's no, for me, again, it goes back to what is your understanding of it? How should you wear it? How do you think it looks? Go ahead, like walk in that way. And I think the biggest trigger for me when it comes to is when brothers condemn another brother because they're not wearing the same one they wear in their understanding at that moment in time. I think that's a fault, right? That we see some brothers may have. But I want to put that out there because there was a time when I didn't even wear nothing. I didn't even practice this because I said, I don't know which one it is, but I would express that. I would say, I'm still searching it out. I'm still studying that out because I do want to wear something. And now I'm here where I'm at, and now I'm walking it out the way I see I need to walk it out until Yahuwah again reveals more, and maybe today will. So, Brother Diggs, go ahead, Ak.
Yes, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Just real quick, back to the bracelet that I wear.
Right.
I for me it came, it started to it was something that I would wear to, 'cause like the key said, I was so in love with the name of Yahuwah. I understood that it was no power in the bracelet. It was not about the bracelet. It wasn't, but I I wore the bracelet just for the fact that it reminded me of who I belonged to. You know what I mean? But then as time went on, like I said, I would leave it in the house.
Right.
Not accidentally. It wasn't on purpose. I was just, sometimes I just forget to put it on or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I was still about, I realized I was still, and it wasn't, at first it was, I guess you can say I would look down at it sometimes, and it remind me of what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm out here, when I'm out and
Right.
about,
Right.
how I'm supposed to carry myself and all that.
Yeah.
But even after a while, I started leaving in the house or whatever it may be. It was so embedded in me and how to behave. I guess you could say I didn't need to remind it no more. I didn't need to look down at it, and it was just, it was something I just didn't, because it was always on my mind. It's in the frontal lobe of my brain. I couldn't not, to the
Right.
day I still can't not speak of the Father, or any opportunity I get. That's just what it is. But I will say this, a key, because again, our attire, what we do ain't always for us. So I will say, I'll definitely keep it in prayer about these seats. And I got, a sister gave me some a long time ago, and I actually got them in this bag with something else. I get some wooden which was with the Most High name on it, and it just never convicted me to wear it. I was like, okay,
Right.
that's cool.
Yeah.
But I just think it's interesting. I just want to say I think it's interesting that you bring this up. And again, I always say, you already know it. I always say that it's beautiful how the Father bring these things up so that we can examine them and get down to the nitty gritty of these things. And so I
Right.
praise you all for that.
Hallelujah. Well, and I get, definitely I think that it has the aspect for, in my opinion, for others. But in this commandment, it literally is saying that you may look at him, that you may, you know what I'm saying? That's the first and foremost. And I agree though with you though that included with that, it's like the fruit, the fruit of it, you know what I'm saying? Because you're like a tree, right? We're like a fruit tree. We're producing fruit that somebody can also come and partake in and say, oh, what is this? You know, what is this? Like I've seen brothers, have the ones they look like pomegranates. They're like it's kind of like arches to a little pomegranate looking arch to a pomegranate. I said, man, that's pretty cool right there. Like, you know, I literally cut my shirt, you know what I'm saying, and I put a rope around mine above that cutting, we see the brothers with the full borders, just pure a bunch of threads or strings. We see some brothers with 4 strings that they put onto their belts. I mean, I think that whatever it is that you're convicted to wear is because you're saying, "Hey, I want to do what Yahuwah is saying to do here." Now, I do like the aspect, Doc, that you bring out too, because that's the aspect I'm thinking of too. For some, they may say, I once had a schoolmaster. You know what I'm saying? And then I transitioned into this college level, you know what I'm saying? And I'm here now. I don't know if that plays a part. I don't know if that applies. Can we use that schoolmaster thought? I have to be honest. I have to ask that question because, or is it that you can still have it in your heart, but you still got to wear it? Those are the questions that I wrestle with because I'm like, man, I don't ever want to lead nobody into a position that they don't feel comfortable in either. You know what I'm saying? So definitely something to wrestle with and to ponder on, like the brother brought out in Psalms, you know what I'm saying? Meditating on day and night. So hallelujah. Thank you, God, for that. All right, brother Chris.
Hey, I just wanted to get some clarity. I couldn't really hear. I was doing something. I didn't really hear the question you're asking about the muscle. Were you
Oh,
saying
okay.
why would they use something unclean? Was that the question?
Yeah, because I've had it presented to me. Would Yahuwah have had the Israelites use something unclean like that, which would be almost like the juice of that creature to
Right.
dye their clothes with and to put it on and so forth? And I said, well, I can see the perspective,
Yeah. Oh
but
yeah, I think if it's used for dye, I'm not sure how they got the color back then.
right,
That's the traditional story behind
right,
how they
right,
did it.
right,
But if it's used for dye, I don't see a problem with it. They're not eating it. If you look at some of the animal skins that was used for the tabernacle, it's
right,
unclean animals, right? So I don't think it's a problem if they're not eating it. They're just using it for a certain purpose. One thing I heard that was interesting, just to touch on this subject of, it shall be a reminder to you.
right.
And how is this a reminder to you? What about this is a reminder? And then it says you have to have the blue, and then it's like, why the blue?
Mhm,
So I heard something interesting. I'm not sure if anyone else heard this, and I'm not saying it's true, but I found it interesting.
mhm,
They're saying that the two stone tablets were made of I think maybe like sapphire stone or some type of stone, whatever stone is blue.
mm,
And they're saying that's why we're commanded to put the blue cord to remind us of the stone tablets. So I
mm.
thought that was interesting. They're saying these stone tablets would have been the same color as the blue cord, and that's how it reminds you. I'm not saying that's true, but I thought that was kind of interesting if that
Yeah,
ends up being the case. Because I always wondered myself, what about this is supposed to remind us of the commandments? I don't see how these locks with blue is a reminder of the commandments.
right.
One thing about if it's still applicable, um, for me personally, I think a strong driving factor for me is that Mashiach word. Um,
Mm.
and
That's a good
and we
point.
see that the woman who grabbed hold of the hem of his garment. If you look up that Greek word, it's tassel, it's tzit-tzit.
Right.
So and you know, it a lot of people link that back to that verse where when it talks about the Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in his wings. And you know, they connect the wings of the garment with the tzit-tzits, and they say, you know, that was kind of a fulfillment of that. She touched the wing of his garment, you know, the hem
Right.
of his garment, the tassel. And you know, the sun kind of has these rays. When you look at the sun, it's like these rays coming out of it. Some people say, you know, that the tzit-tzit's a picture of that too. So he brought healing through just his tassel. She tried to reach through the crowd, and she said, if I just could just touch his tassel, then I can get healed. So when I saw that that Greek word was the same, you know, that was the meaning of it, connected to the tzit-tzits, and seeing that Mashiach himself wore it, I said, you know, we have to follow the, you know, the instruction and the example of our teacher. So if he wore it, I'm gonna wear it. I'm gonna wear it. And if in the end Yah says, hey, you know, there was no need for that, I'm like, okay, cool. But I'm not, I don't think he's gonna say, well, you shouldn't have done that, right?
Right. Right.
So you know, if you don't have to, if Yah says, you know, in the end you don't have to, it wasn't necessary, then it is what it is. But you
Right.
can't be in error for doing what Yah's word says.
Right.
You know, unless something, you know, somebody's still trying to sacrifice animals. And
Yeah, we
okay,
haven't
yeah,
got. We'll get
you
there
know,
too. You know.
right. So that's another story. But you know,
Right.
something in the word, you know, for example, there's a lot of different ones. I don't want to jump the gun, but you know, there's so much different ones.
Yeah.
Beard and this and that, and it's like, is it still applicable today? You can't be in error for doing it,
Yeah.
um, right?
This one in
Unless you're trying to
particular.
do it for salvation, right? Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right. Right. And again, what we see here, I went back to Matthew 23. It was, what were they doing, right? It wasn't that they were wearing, they made broad their phylacteries. It didn't seem like Yahusha was correcting them in that as much as, or enlarging their borders of their garments. Didn't seem like he was correcting them and saying, you shouldn't do that. He says, but all their works they do for to be seen of men. So they were
Right,
enlarging the borders, broadening their phylacteries to be seen by men. So their heart
right.
posture, where was their heart posture? Where was their heart at? You know what I'm saying? The position.
It's like they said, I'm gonna make sure that you notice my tzit-tzits. I'm
Right.
gonna make sure that you notice my phylactery, because this is a symbol of how righteous I am, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And the fact that he said they widen it seems to indicate the fact that there wasn't a set tradition yet of how exactly the shape and the size and the length, because how are some making it wider than others, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And so, and going back again, we see what we seen when I looked at the Septuagint in back in Numbers. We see here they use, this is the Septuagint, the Apostolic Bible Polyglot. Again, they have the word, they put decorative hymns. That's an interesting portion too. I would, that's a whole, that's really going into this subject, but it's an interesting portion of this subject. Almost that, like, they made the fringes or the borders of their garments like spectacular. Like, again, we seen that word bloom. Like, it wasn't just a little flower to be appreciative. It was like exploding kind of boom, you know what I'm saying? And that was like, wow, something with that for me has played a part um for what they were doing. Because again, this is what they were doing. And I'm emphasizing on that because Yahusha is not saying for them not to do it. He's just saying they're doing it to be seen of men. So they weren't doing it to be because they want to keep the commandments, to remember the commandments, to do exactly what Yahuwah said in Numbers 15. They're doing it because they want the opposite. They want the recognition. And he goes on to say, and they love the uppermost rooms at feasts and the chief seats in the synagogues and greetings in the markets, and to be called of men, rabbi, rabbi. So he goes in the next two verses and really just keeps adding on to their want and desire of these, Pharisees, of wanting to be seen by men for who they are, what they're doing as far as their walk. And that also warns me of being careful not to pronounce, myself in a way of trying to be seen by men, instead of saying, nah, I'm doing things because I'm representing Yahuwah, because this is what he told me to do, this is what he commanded me to do. And when it comes to t-shirts, hats, necklaces, it comes to all these other things, it's just hey, I like this. This is my style. Or, there's that level, I think, where we have to be careful not to cross. That's all I'm saying, is we got to be careful that we're not doing things only, again, as the warning of Yahusha gave us, to be seen by men, because that's what you're doing them for, right? All their works they do to be seen by men. Now, I want to go to the other one that you just mentioned, Mark chapter 6, verse 56. Here we see that it says what the brother Chris had just mentioned. And when they had passed over, they came into the land of Gennesaret and drew to the shore. And when they were come out of the ship, straightway they knew him. And they ran through that whole region round about, and began to carry about in beds those that were sick, where they heard he was. And whithersoever he entered, into villages or cities or country, they laid the sick in the streets, and besought him that they might touch, if it were but the border of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole. And I like what you said, Og. Like, that's a great point, is that we are seeing here that the Messiah is doing Numbers chapter 15. He's practicing that because it's in those commandments. As far as what's happening here, of course, we have a scenario that the people were saying, if I were to just touch the border of his garments, I would be made whole. As many as touched him were made whole. So that's another topic, right? Because he talks about the virtue came out of him and things like this. But just as an example, like you brought out, he was practicing Numbers 15:38. Now, one verse that I would say, that makes me always look at our Messiah and what he was doing is in First John. It says, walk as he walked. And if I'm walking as he walked, which not just in the physical of love, and I mean the physical aspect, but also in the having compassion, having love, doing things, eating together with others, all these little aspects I look at. I'm trying to walk like Yahusha. I'm trying to imitate him. I want to be like him. I want to, in that way of like, this is our Messiah. Like, this is how I'm supposed to walk, like how he walked. And he kept the feast. Okay, I'm keeping the feast. He wore fringes. I'm going to wear fringes. That's all. And that's kind of where I like that, how you brought that out to be the example, because it makes a lot of sense when we think about that. And the question is, like, she reached out to grab onto his edge of his garment, like his clothes. So that's where sometimes some people may say, well, it's not going to be just 4 strings. It's going to be everywhere around his garment. And I can understand where they're coming from. You know what I'm saying? I can understand. But even if it is just 4 strings, it was not about the 4 strings. It was about clinging on to Yahusha with that amuna, with that faith, that belief that if I just touch him, I'm going to be made whole. And that's the power for me, where I was like, wow. And then where he even says, like, who touched me? And the disciples are like, all these people are walking. What do you mean? He said, yeah. He said, but somebody touched me right now, and virtue came out of me. Whether it's 4 strings or a full garment or just a blue border, I mean, we can go down the line. No matter what, there was a faith and there was a munah, and we see our Messiah doing something and wearing something practicing Numbers 15:38, and there was power for him because he's keeping the commandments. So just want to bring that out as well. I appreciate that, Ak, that you brought that out with it. Brother Abel Zion, go ahead, Ak.
Hallelujah. It's because he was righteous that we can be righteous in him. He makes us the righteousness of Yah.
Hallelujah.
It's amazing how he fully kept it and they knew he came from him, even a woman with blood issue.
Right.
When you mention it, it's a thought that I've had. It's a topic that we've been on for a couple of weeks with different brothers and sisters. When the sister would be in her period and what it says in the Torah, which I just like waiting to get to that point because he does talk about it in this list, you know. But then when he says, virtue left me,
Yeah.
everybody was touching him.
Right.
He's literally the star of Yaakov. You know, he's the star of Yaakov. He's like walking in the crowd. Everybody's around him, like they want to touch him. He's been touched by everyone. But only one person who had blood issue touched him and he stopped. And he's like, virtue left me.
Yeah, right here. It's an amazing portion, Ak. I'll be honest, man. I always get like, man, it just it just brings joy to me. Because I'm like, wow, like I think about, and of course I've seen movies and stuff about these things, you know. I'm like watching all these different depictions of the Messiah. And so you get these visuals and you're just like, this woman, it says, and the woman having issues of blood 12 years. I can only feel bad like for a person like that who had an issue of blood, because there's a lot of speculation. What does this issue of blood mean? You know what I'm saying? Could it be this? Could it be that? But regardless of it, what it was, it says, which had spent all her living, all her money upon physicians, neither could be healed of any. How much whatever she was going through was so like detrimental for her own life, her own spirit, that she's trying to pay all these doctors to figure things out. She's giving all her money up for it because she's like, I don't want this. I'm tired of, 12 years is a long time. And none can heal her. And then she comes to Yahusha. Go ahead, Ak.
Yeah. She had no doubt whatsoever that if she touches him,
that's it.
She will be healed. There was no doubt in her. She's been waiting for it. There's 12 years. There's Israel with the 12 stars. There's Exodus 12 when Israel comes out of Egypt. You know, there's Genesis 12 when the father calls Abraham from out of his people. This woman had no doubt, but it talks about being unclean and believing in the only righteous, that if we touch him, we will be made clean. She had no doubt whatsoever. But we're on the tzit-tzits and the virtue that is in Yeshua and how he would be imparted onto others. He talks about the border of his garment, and he talks about other people that were trying to touch, even if it were the border of his garment. So he keeps on repeatedly twice talking about the border of his garment. So when we read Numbers, what I saw is that the Father is literally saying to the children of Israel to make fringes, as we were reading, to make fringes, but on the corner of those fringes, the cord of blue. Like the Native Americans and the fringes. The only thing that is missing is the cord of blue on the corners. So that's why it's like, okay, there's a sign that they came from somewhere. They've been lost, they've been lost, but they came from somewhere, because it's like we make the fringes, and even what I have on, that's why I was trying to like understand the commandment to do it. This is like a curtain that I bought, and I sewed it together, and then I just kind of like did with the the needle to make the fringes out of it.
Right.
And I just tied a blue cord at the end. But I'm still learning what the Father says, because there's a part of like, I also have it on my pen. I have an like there's like you were saying, I pierced holes in my shirts, like just to have but there's the part I believe there's the stumbling block is like the finger pointing at others that don't wear the way that I am wearing or the way I'm
Right.
understanding.
Right.
Yeah. But that's just how I see the part of like making the fringes, because the Israelites had, garments, like gowns. It wasn't, wearing pants, except for maybe shorts, like trousers underneath the garments, but now today we have pants, we have shirts and so forth. But it will be, in the understanding of what's covering us, that we have to wear those fringes. But to see something with Yeshua wearing them and then someone touching him, that's why it's like, talking about the Torah and then the laws of uncleanness and the blood issue, the woman who has a blood issue, but the woman who's also on her period, and the man who has a nightly emission. So it's just like all of this is like, I've been just like, what is this talk about? Taking it lightly.
Right.
But then I just dealt with a sister who's starting to take it seriously.
Mm.
And then she's taking it seriously, but she's not like, she's struggling with it. So she's still like touching, like giving me the chair when she sat. And I'm like, nah, no, but we try to get it. But then I also have to share with the congregation who I was, that literally there's times I have nightly emissions and I don't tell people, but now I'm accountable. I'm held accountable to come out of the camp, but to let people know, because we are echad. There's no more male or female. We have to let people, it's in the Torah. I say that in the Torah. But to help one another, because Yeshua literally stopped and says, virtue left me.
Yeah.
When so many people were touching him.
Right.
So many people were touching him, but he stopped. He was like, wait, there's something that just happened.
Yeah.
Virtue just so for us to stay pure and our brothers to help us and then our sisters to also help us, like that's why we have to communicate. Becoming Kodesh, that's very important.
Yeah. No, hallelujah. And again, it's the action of saying, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna put this on my garment the best way I know how, because I want to walk in that faith. I'm going to walk in that faith, and I don't know what it is. And for me, it took me about 6 months until I finally did an action towards it, because I was like, I just want to do it the way that the Ruach leads me. I don't know. Everybody else was telling me how to do it. Oh, do it like this, do it like this, do it like. I said, no, hold on. Like, let me.
Yeah, count 5.
Yeah, let me get in the spirit of this, and I want to know what Yahuwah's gonna show me. Like, and he definitely, I believe Yahuwah led me to a bunch of YouTube videos, a bunch of articles, a bunch of brothers telling me things. Hallelujah for that, because he took me through all this journey to say, and here you go. Like, now and then once it felt good, it felt different, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna walk this out like this, and to know that, like you just expressed, when this woman touched his garment, power, that word right here is the word G1411. It says a miraculous power. That is powerful itself, so does it mean that now you can touch, somebody can touch your garments and they're gonna get this power out of it? No, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't, what I'm saying? I haven't seen that one yet.
Right.
But the power is in it of, I guess in my mind, I'm just saying the power is in it to do this commandment. When you're in that right place, though, right? When Yahuwah has you in that right place to do it, not just because people tell you to do it. Because I've always cautioned that. I said, man, we got to be careful. Like, we got to be led by the Spirit. You know what I'm saying? Led by the Spirit. So,
because you have been Kodesh, everything was Kodesh. Like, let's say he doesn't have the like a coat.
Right.
He's Kodesh. So as soon as he touches the coat, he's Kodesh. It's like, so he was just walking field, it's like he was just giving it. He was just giving it. He was just giving it. So now the part with the power, and it's in Yah's word is power. Right. So if we obey Yah's word, he's the one who gives us his power, because he's the power himself, he's the spirit.
Hallelujah.
So like, is in obeying him, that's where power is. So but it's just like, but the physicality of saying, now if anybody just touches my gun, I was like, okay, you gotta stay out of the door. Doctrine.
Right. Yeah. See, and that's how easy they can get. That's how easy doctrines can be created, right? So
big time.
But what again, and just to reiterate again, what we see here is in verse 38, we're seeing a specific instruction of how to, what to do, right? And then we see in verse 39 and verse 40 is the purpose of it. And it is to where your heart becomes new. Again, it really, these verses have coincided with Deuteronomy 6:8 in the same way of, could these be physical? Could they be spiritual? But both are leading to be a new man. Like you're a new man and you're walking in this new spirit. You're doing things differently. And when people say, why are you doing that? Or how come you doing this? Or why do you think this way? Why do you act that way? Because I'm a new man. I'm not the old man no more. I'm a new man. Is there going to be fight within ourselves? Possibly. Is there going to be like, temptation? Possibly, of course. But it doesn't matter. If you do what he says in 15:38 and you keep doing everything he tells us as we continue to go on this mission, we're going to see that he's just giving us good instructions. So again, it's not to condemn somebody who doesn't do this. You know what I'm saying? It's not to condemn nobody. It's just to analyze it, bring it to the forefront, and then wrestle with it yourself, right? Because nobody can tell you anything that the Ruach HaKodesh, if the Ruach HaKodesh is leading you in a way of saying, do it this way, or do it that way, or do you need to do it? Those are questions that I can't. But if somebody wants to wrestle and say, come to us and say, hey, brothers, what do you think about this? Should I do it like this? Should I do it like that? Then we can give our opinion. Then we can express ourselves to our brother. Then we could tell them, this is how I do it. This is what I think. And that's exactly what we've been doing in these last few weeks. It's just trying to understand so we can all walk strongly in the Mashiach. So praise Yahuwah for this conversation again, being able to really get through this. Now, we're not doing an in-depth study as well, so I don't want somebody to think that we've looked at we exhausted everything out of Numbers 15:38. We really didn't. We just looked at the surface level, maybe one level down. We kind of peeled the onion just to kind of look into it and see what it says. But it's just for the fact to say, should we be doing it? How should we do it? Is it done away with? Because that's what we keep hearing. That Mosaic covenant, what they call it, Yahuwah's instructions, those are done away with. We don't got to do those no more. Well, that's what we're talking about as we go through this journey. So praise Yahuwah. We're gonna leave it off here. But next week we're gonna be touching on, as you see on the screen, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 9. Hopefully we can get through maybe the next 5, because they may not be as maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe we're only gonna get through 2 again. So we'll see. But just want to say shalom to everybody. Praise Yahuwah, for coming on again with and coming together as a body of Mashiach, as brothers, to really try to magnify these instructions that Yahuwah gave us, and also to bring together as we need to the body of Mashiach. And some people may not agree with me in this way, but I believe those that profess the name of Yahusha, and I'm not just saying the verbatim name Yahusha, but when they profess the name of Yahusha, or they profess the name of the Messiah, and they walk in these ways, and they go back and they seek out Yahuwah, they seek these are our brothers, so these are questions that are going to come up though. And so praise Yahuwah for this time, And I'll see y'all next Thursday if you're able to get back on 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern. Join in with us, and we'll continue to build with each other on this, man. So much love to everybody. Hope you all have a blessed rest of your week. And yeah, hallelujah. Much shalom, you guys. Hallelujah.